ladies and gentlemen, you are tuning into
The Session.
I'm your girl, Michelle Nicole.
And I'm your girl, Natalia Cartier.
And we have the special guest by Shan Boody. She's a sexologist, author, and YouTube star. How you feeling, girl?
I'm feeling excellent. I'm really excited to be here right now.
I love the voice. I love the voice.
I practiced, you know.
Well, it sounds great.
Thank you very
Sounds
much.
great.
I live for that, okay? The affirmation. I was saying that I love the word in LA, validation is so normal, like to validate, you know, obviously you're parking, but like when you say to someone, validate me,
Yeah.
you know,
It's confirmation.
like I validated your lipstick. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
yes, right.
I validated your hair. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Shan, darling.
Darling.
I just feel like I have to put this voice on because you're a sexologist, the
Yes.
purple lighting,
Yeah,
everything.
it's peer pressure. I forced you to do this. Yeah, it's fine.
So I want to know how you got your start into YouTubing. How did you get your start into becoming a sexologist? What made you want to do this?
Yeah.
Choose this career path?
I really feel like, you know, how some kids at, you know, age 5, they're just very proficient at the piano. They're just very drawn to it. Like I was like that towards physical touch. Like I
At
remember.
age 5?
Yeah, my Barbies were banned from being naked because they never had clothes on. My mom's like, from now on, if I see a naked Barbie, they just never had clothes. And like I was just
wow.
always a very like physical touch person. And so I think that natural tendency mixed with a Catholic upbringing and a West Indian upbringing was like very repressive. And so as a result of that, it brought a lot of confusion out. And so by the time I turned into a teen and I had the hormones, it was like the repression, but the desire and the confusion. And then I, you know, my only outlet was like music videos to see what like a sexual woman is. And so it just led to a very terrible sex life. And I'm like, at around 19 years old, I'm like, this can't be it. You know, if I really care about this thing, like there has to be more to it because it's just let me down. And so I got a library card and started researching. And I'm like, man, like sex is interesting and sex sells, but sex ed does not. I just saw a niche for someone to bridge the gap there. And so that's pretty much been like my purpose of my career is to make sex ed sell.
So you said you grew up in a Catholic background. Your parents were like really strict, diehard Catholics, or?
Nah, my
Yeah?
mom was kind of like the like Santa Claus Catholic, like believe in just in case, you know what I mean? And my dad was like anything but, like he's an atheist, but they just really wanted those principles in us. And so my parents, they're Caribbean background. So whether or not they, you know, sided with Catholicism, the views on sexuality were somewhat similar.
And you're from Toronto, right?
Yeah, I am. Six.
Right. The nice little drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your background? What Caribbean? Which islands?
So my dad is Guyanese. My mom is from Dominica. Are you Guyanese?
No, my grandmother is Guyanese.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, on my dad's side. So
Yeah.
got a little something in there.
A little island.
A little
you know what I mean?
something, yeah.
A little island.
And my
Yeah, I'll go
dad
along.
was born in Montserrat, the British West Indies, and the.
I'm not like a proficient in this, so I'm gonna just quit right now on my head.
You're like, oh, okay. That's dope. That's super interesting that you found out that you had an interest in touch and feeling at the age of 5 years old, and you actually like made a career out of this. How has the journey been for you while you decided to pursue this career? Has it been like smooth sailing, bumps in the road? Tell me about it.
I think 100%. That's something I learned really like the past 2 years. How I deliver is how people respond to me. And so it took me a very long time to get comfortable saying like, hey, I'm Shannon Boodram, I'm a sexologist. And even when the Uber driver's like, what do you do? I'm not like, oh, well, you know, a little on the side. I'm like, oh, I talk about sex. Like I'm just very forward about it because I have to really own it and sell it. If I waver, people will take an opportunity to say, okay, well, that's not a real job. This isn't a real thing. Or look at it as an opportunity for me to say, well, that person's just a freak. So I had to really embody, you know, the sex positive confidence. And it took me a long time to get that. And so I started out, you know, at 19 and had a really strong passion. And then I kind of got wavered by my parents who were not that encouraging. And then I was like discouraged from teachers and I was just discouraged a lot and I stepped away from it. And then when I went back to it years later, I was still kind of waffling. And so I'm always very patient with anybody who's not completely bold about their sexuality. Because I know I went through that same slow process of becoming comfortable, and to become the place I'm at now is like, I don't know, over 10,000 hours, right? Of just research, dialogue, conversation, of listening to other people's stories and of finding myself in every single person. So I always say when people like are intimidated by a sex expert, I'm like, all positions are really valid. And I know that because I've been in every single position. That was a sexual part.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Got it.
I was waiting for that. Wow.
How would you guys describe yourself on the term, and then on the scale of sexual comfort, where are you?
Ooh, from what?
I'm probably
One to-
like
From missionary to butt plugs. Like, where
Oh,
are you
wow.
on that?
Ooh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think I'm
that's a
probably
great
like
question.
an 7.5.
Oh, that's a good number.
Yeah.
That's
I
an A in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we get A's for
A. Oh,
80%.
okay.
You guys are 90s and up is
Yeah.
A, right?
Uh-huh. 80 is a B. But yeah, I'm very comfortable with my skin and my sexuality. Coming from a Caribbean background, they're very open to that. Like, you go attend a reggae party, everybody dancing
Skin
up on
out.
each other. It's skin out, belly out, everything. Everybody winding up on
Yes.
each other. Like, sex is, that's why Rihanna's such like, whatever. It was
Yeah.
like, but that's just part of the culture.
Yeah.
So I feel like my culture kind of helped me be open to sex. And like, it's not taboo in my family. Like, we talk about it openly. Like, I remember one time I was dating this guy. I ain't gonna put him out there. But we were dating for a while, and my mom was like, you should get back with him. He was such a great guy, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, no, it's never going to happen. She kept putting pressure on me. I was like, listen, the sex was whack. And she's like, you know what? Okay, I get it. And
Left him.
Yeah,
she
that's
was
so
like,
important.
Yeah.
That's
She's like,
so
it
important.
ain't everything, but it sure is a whole lot to the relationship.
Oh yes. For me, I think my confidence level, it's like I like to try. I wouldn't say try anything once, but if I have that level of comfortability with that guy that I'm with, then I mean, it's kind of like, I'm down for.
So you're contingent on the partner. So you're
Yes.
comfortable in a outward, like just talking about it, with your family or just with friends. Like, where are you in that scale in terms of?
I would say I'm kind of at a 9.
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of at a
Whoa,
9.
really?
Yeah. I mean, if the conversation goes there, then yeah.
Yes, anal beads. Okay. Yes.
I forgot you are low-key a freak. You did tell me a couple
I'm a
stories.
Capricorn, okay? I'm a Capricorn, so I'm just a freak in the sheets, but on the streets, I just keep it,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you ask,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. That's great.
Well, look at you. Ow.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions or something?
Do I have any questions?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, just wrapping my head around all of your, accomplishments and just like your
I
upbringing.
prefer the word glory.
Glory,
Yeah,
all of
just-
the glory.
just
Hey,
all my
correct
glory.
me, girl.
Yes.
Correct me, girl. So you grew up in Toronto. You had a little, I would say, like a little issue with the visa, as many performers and many people who want to get in the country and like want to do things in that world have. How was that challenge for you, and how did you overcome that? Like, being kind of, I wouldn't say like harassed, but like, kind of pushed to the side, like, oh, she's that type of person. And then like overcoming that to, pursue your dreams in this country.
I will say for sure that the visa situation was like a really great lesson. I think for all entrepreneurs or for all creatives, period, where we're like, why won't someone believe in me? Like no one will give me a shot. They only want to make like the sure shots or make the safe bets. Wait until it's your own money. Then you're like, is like, I would sponsor Drake. You know what I mean? Like if that's where I had to bet on to say that he, to put $10,000 on, I'd put it on him. But would I put that on myself? And so that situation was really, it wasn't like the visa process was hard. It was the mental process of believing in myself and investing, because when you put that money down, if you get declined, it's gone. And so that's when you really start thinking like, she cool, but So I thought that was a really beautiful experience. And I think I have a really unique story in that, like, I came with a temporary visa and then I went directly to green card. Most people are like, do a couple temporary visas before, then have to get married, have a couple kids here. But I just made that belief in myself, and I was like, okay, and the whole point of a visa is to prove that you are a leader in your field. And I'm fortunate to be in a field that's not completely oversaturated. So it was a great, beautiful thing. I think if anyone out there is watching, and you have to have that chance where you take that on yourself. Prove to yourself that you would invest in yourself. Prove to yourself that you're worth that big shot before you ask anyone else to do that for you. Yeah, I mean, YouTube is everything. Like, I'm a media reject. I think I would describe myself as that. Like, I'm somebody who tried to go the traditional route. I wrote a book. It was published across North America, but it was kind of like one of those like, it was a great headline, but it didn't necessarily like translate into a massive career. And then I did some TV work, and of course I had great headlines. Like, I was booked on this BET project, booked on this MTV thing, booked on this TLC thing, but it wasn't raising my platform in any way. And then I was still, kind of getting shafted. And because of the fact that I don't have the traditional look that maybe a sexologist might have, so a lot of places.
What is the traditional look?
Yeah.
Like 40s, white,
Like, what's that lady's name?
Yeah.
Ruth.
Well,
No
Dr.
wonder why
Ruth,
that
for
never
sure.
happened.
But
I was
there's
like, no wonder why that never happened for me.
the ones I think that are like kind of emergent now, like Dr. Ruth is like a staple. She's almost like, I don't know, the prince of sexology,
Yes.
right? But the ones who are out now, they tend to be more, older and more mature and like a certain race. And so I had a hard time selling myself in that regard. And so YouTube was my way of saying, no, I undisputably know we can swear, right?
Yeah.
I know my shit. So
Hello.
it was a way for me to put myself out there, and I would never turn my back on YouTube because it is that platform where you can always say yes to yourself. Every time you turn the camera on, right now you're saying yes to yourself. You're giving yourself and saying, you're worth listening to. And when I said that, and I kept saying that by pressing record, then media companies turned around. They were like, something about that girl over there, So I think that I'm not the YouTuber who was like, went there first. I was like a reject, went there, but then that ended up being like my biggest launching pad.
Yeah.
The fact that you didn't give up and you took matters into your own hands and not depending on anyone else to launch your career is...
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because
It's
anybody
amazing.
could have just been like, you know what, damn, nobody's like taking me serious or listening
Right.
to me. I'm just going to just leave it alone. But you went ahead and took that extra step and was like, fuck that shit. I'm going to do this shit on my own. So that's very admirable.
And
So yes, we can swear.
Yeah.
yes. And you talk a lot about that in your video. I think it's pinned on your YouTube profile. It's about your career. What is it called?
My career is not a fairy tale.
That one
Oh,
where you talk
yeah.
about the waves and kind of like
Yes.
being in Hollywood is kind of like sitting in the middle of the ocean, and like your deal with full screen. It's like, okay, that wasn't, you expected for it to be kind of like a big tsunami, but it was actually a little wave inside that pool. So can you tell our audience a little bit about that experience, like sitting in the middle of the ocean, being in Hollywood, And
As I was saying, like I think LA is a lot like the middle of the ocean because there's a stillness to it. There's not a current. I think of New York, like you go, there's an instant flow. Whether or not you're doing shit or not, you're doing shit. If you're going to get frozen yogurt, like you in the grind. Whereas in LA, it's just like you could literally just sit in your home all day long. And then I remember when I first came here, it was like disheartening because you'd go on Instagram and be like, oh my God, like Nylon is having a young sexologist party. Why am I not invited? Or like this person is having
serious FOMO,
right? Like it's almost like you can see things happening in the distance, but you don't know how to get there. There's no current taking you. There's no flow. There's nothing to hold on to. There's no one to like piggyback off of a lot of times because it's just like this, everyone's there in that stillness. And so you have to create your own waves and create your own momentum. And that was for me is like the kicking the ball thing of like, you can't expect the ball to keep rolling. You have to continue to kick it time and time again. And even when you're like, okay, at this point, it has to keep rolling. It doesn't have to. And that's accepting that as a part of your journey. Like I said, there are some people who their whole career is just wave to wave to wave. Mind you, that can end up with them crashing. We've seen that story as well too. So you have to own whatever it is that your story is and embrace that. And I think the fact that my story is of one of resilience, is of one of just like tyranny, for lack of a better word, is inspiring in some ways, even though it's not necessarily easy to live this way. Nonetheless,
Low lane.
yeah.
Transparent.
Let me tell you something. When I saw that video, I was like...
Wait, which one?
The fairy tale.
yes, yes.
My career's not because I was just venting to her how I felt.
Yes.
And she was like, "Did you see the video?" Right. I said, "Which one?" Because I
Like,
saw
girl.
30 million, and
Yes.
she told me this one. She's like, "Let me send you the link." And I saw, it, and I
Yes.
was just like, "Damn, I can relate." Like you can feel lost in this big ass ocean, like you described it. Like it's just like. It's hard, but you gotta keep motherfucking going. You gotta
Moving.
keep that ball rolling. Like you said, kick it high.
Oh, because
Right.
nothing else. If you don't, it just stops.
Right.
It's not like you really have a choice. You can just drown, or you can, catch
Sink
a
or
ride
swim.
back to your hometown.
Right.
And like,
Just keep swimming.
yeah, really, it is that. Yeah, and I think people get exhausted in that. So LA is definitely. I think LA is great. People always complain that it's fake. I'm like, fake is amazing because you can make it whatever you want it to be.
Right.
That's the truth of it. Is if it's all a game, it's all imaginary. Like, well, let me envision and let me create the ideal situation for me, and all the tools are there. So I love this day. I think it's fantastic.
I agree.
This is a session where queens unite to share their light.